We're born ready. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our July program. We'll get started as usual with a few minutes of couple of announcements. Um, so, um, I'll start. On August 1st, the museum will be hosting our third, it's called Dia de Ciencias event. Ciencias y Culturas. We're the Department of Natural Sciences and Cultural Resources. And it's a focus on the Hispanic community. Our first year we had about 4,000. Last year we had about 6,000. So it's working. We worked out the bugs, and we are now going to have a Wake Audubon table. I have a couple tables with some of the bird work we've done, but we wanted to expand on that with all the work Wake Audubon to showcase it. So a typical tabling event. If you're around and want to at least attend, it is August 1st from around 10 to 5. It's a lot of agencies and other organizations will have their tables out. There'll also be some music and dance and other stuff. I'm sure there's food around. It's mostly in the other building, mostly in the other wing. So the Nature Exploration Center. Come out for a day. If you want to help, then Wake Audubon is always looking for more help. We have a few people signed up. We'll take more. If you have an hour, great. If you have 3 hours, even better. I'll probably have my tables close by. We can share people or share resources. So just talk to the public about what we do, nature, birds, whatever. It's very interactive. Pretty much everybody speaks English now, but if you want to practice a little Spanish, there's a number of folks that will happily engage. It can be a lot of fun. So that's August 1st. I would say August 11 is the meeting where everybody's invited to participate. So this is our potluck. So that'll be the August meeting. We'll be here in this room. We start early, around 6:30 or so, or we start at 6. Well, check the website. Is it the 14th?
Yeah.
Check the date. I must have looked at the last year's calendar. The second two. It is the 11th?
Yeah.
All right, good. So we meet early, and we have a potluck dinner, and then y'all are invited to submit up to 5 slides. You can say a few words about them. It will not be hybrid, it'll just be in person. So come on down and join us. Bring a few slides, say a few words. If you can't make it, but you want to, yeah, send the pictures ahead. Go on the website. I think Royce is going to put it in the chat. You can send them to Missy. Her email is on the calendar, and if you forget, you can send them to me. We'll be compiling it into a PowerPoint. If you can't make it, but you want to show slides, just send your comments to us, and we will show your slides and read them out loud. So that'll be the August meeting. Jeff, I did not follow the thread. Did you want to do the field trip?
The field trip is next Tuesday, and Erla tells me it's full.
It's already full?
Yeah.
Wow. We might have to do 2 field trips.
There you
Jeff
go.
doing a field trip and already filled up before I even knew. Although I sort of instigated it, but I didn't follow through. Okay. Later in August, hopefully we'll be doing our Raleigh area butterfly count, and I usually invite people to come along with me and shadow and learn what we do. It's sort of like a Christmas bird count, but for butterflies, and it's fun. And we're always looking for more people to help out because I'm getting old and Connors is getting older. So, and Harry is beyond old, so we need help. So, yeah. So, keep an eye out. Once John Connor sends us a date, I'll be letting some folks know. So those are all the things in August. Before we move on to anything in September, Louise, do you want to say anything?
Well, I'll just mention if you're
Come on up here. Louise has got a few announcements.
Hello. if this is if you're not already a member of National Audubon and this is your first time visiting, our chapter will pay for your first year of membership. It's a $20 membership. And so if it's your first time here, let us know. And I'll just have you fill out this little sheet and give it back to me before you leave, and we'll take it from there. All right.
All right,
And
Colleen,
Colleen, did you want us to announce?
you have to come up here and do it.
You have to come up here and be on camera.
Sort of related to butterflies. We're having a moth night at White Deer Park next Wednesday, the 22nd, from 8:30 to 10:30. There's still spaces available. So you can go to the Town of Garner program website, or you can get in touch with me and I'll be happy to direct you in the right location. And we have some local moth experts coming out, so lots of people to tell you exactly what you're seeing.
Sweet.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're coming up on week. That's not next week, is it? It's usually the last week in July. But anyway, this is the month we start doing moth programs. Jim Hunsberger, do you have anything to say?
Oh,
If you do, behave. Get up here and
I don't have anything.
Nothing.
I don't have- I don't
nothing
have anything.
coherent.
I was just asking Louise if the sign up sheet for new members also is the means by which we get people who are interested in joining committees, participating in activities, becoming more active in Wake Audubon to indicate their
Yes.
areas of interest. I didn't know if that's the same sheet. I just
Yeah,
wanted to mention.
you can, yeah.
Okay, cool. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, if you're online and haven't joined Wake Audubon, you'd like to, we will cover the first year of that. You can just send us an email, let us know. We just have to get some info from you. If you're interested in any kind of our volunteer activities, some of the different projects we do, committee work, that kind of thing, some of it's indoor, some of it's outdoor, just get in touch with one of the board members or through the information email on the Wake Audubon website, let us know, and someone will follow up. And is there anything else from anybody out there? I just want to say, because, August will come and go and it's a little bit of a different meeting, just a reminder that then there's September. And actually, our speaker in September is named August. I know that's a little confusing, but it's just how it is. We would have booked her for August, but that's taken up with the potluck, and you can't some traditions you can't mess with, but yeah, so August, one of our members she did her graduate work on rails. She was at East Carolina, and she's gonna tell us about some of her previous graduate work on some of the rails, like King Rail and Clapper Rail down on the coastal plain. And so that'll be September. September is also the Chimney Swift month, and there'll be something going on. I know that I'll be back at the Willard, for those of you that have been out to that bar and grill up on the 7th floor of that little hotel downtown. They've already asked me. I gave them dates in the 3rd week of September. They'll pick one somewhere around the 17th, 18th, 19th September. That's a fun night out. So, be on the lookout for that. The stuff will be posted on the Wake Audubon website. I just want to circle back about the photos that people submit. I just want to highlight, it is not a photo competition. If you're interested at all, and it's about sharing a moment and why you like to go out and take a walk or do something in nature. Any photo, I mean, you can take cell phone pictures, anything. I've done some blurry ones that meant something to me, and so I show them. It's not a competition. Just send something in just to share your stories. If you saw some of the photos that Diane submitted, you'd know. She's here. I had to tease her. So, and if nobody has anything else to say now, then I'll just go ahead and tell you about our speaker. I have gone techno, or I'm reading it off of my phone. Oh no, my phone's acting up. Technology. Our speaker tonight, Jeff Pippin. I've known Jeff for quite a few years. He is an avid butterflyer. He's a birder. That's really how I got to know him, through the bird stuff. The naturalist photographer. He has a natural history website. If you have a moment, go to jeffpippin.com and check it out. It features over 14,000 photos of plants and animals. I've used it a lot for butterflies. It's pretty cool stuff. And it includes, it's not just North Carolina because he travels around the world in looking at nature. So he has his photo collection from all over and birds and butterflies and stuff. It's pretty cool. In 2024, he worked with Harry. Harry's here in the audience, and it was Durb, right, was the other co-author of the book? Yeah, so they have co-authored a new book. It came out in 2024 on the butterflies of North Carolina, includes South Carolina, Virginia, and Georgia. And it's a really cool field guide up to date on that group. And this is cool. His butterfly photography made it to a primetime television episode one time on CSI Miami. Was it some kind of whodunit thing, or
Sort of.
you'll have to tell us about it. And so, for a while he was in Montana, but before he moved to Montana, he was a faculty member at Duke University, and that's actually how we met up years ago. He would bring us. He taught ecology, invertebrate natural history, forestry, and he would bring students to Prairie Ridge. We would do bird banding for a day. He went out to Montana to establish a butterfly monitoring program. It was on a private conservation ranch. He is back in North Carolina, and he's working remotely through Georgetown University with a woman that runs the Butterfly Informatics Lab. So he heads up the Carolina branch of a butterfly survey program, a pretty extensive program. So he's also co-director of the Blue Ridge Butterfly Monitoring Program, which goes on in Virginia, and with the North American Butterfly Monitoring Network. I guess you could say he likes butterflies. So, and so with that, I'm really glad to have him back. It's been a long time. The last talk he gave to Wake Audubon was during the pandemic, so we didn't really see him. And then before that, we were in the other building in the basement. That was a long time ago. So it's good to have Jeff Piven back up and to talk about some butterflies and monitoring and what he's up to these days. Jeff, take it away.
Well, thank you, John. And I think last time that when I was in person in the basement of that other building, it was a bird talk. So great to be here. Thanks for folks coming out. Great to see a lot of folks both on Zoom as well as in the audience, and just looking forward to it. I live in Mebane, North Carolina, which most folks around here know where Mebane is, about 20 miles-ish west of Durham. I did a workshop last year in New Bern, and I told folks as I was introducing myself that I was in Mebane, North Carolina. You probably don't know where that is. Everybody's like, oh, that's where you're getting the Buc-ee's. And I'm like, okay, you do know where Mebane is. All right, yes. So I'm a full-time research specialist at Georgetown University, live in Mebane. I'm very happy to say I've never been to Georgetown, so it's perfect. I love my commute. Let's see. Oh, what we're gonna do is minimize the Zoom window. And then we'll see, there we go, it's gonna work. All right, yay. Today we're gonna do is talk about the Butterfly Monitoring Program. Folks on Zoom, John says I need to stay here. I'm gonna do my best, but I run back and forth, so apologize up front. We'll talk about the Butterfly Monitoring Program. Why should we even bother monitoring butterflies? How to run a survey if we do bother to monitor them. We'll introduce some butterfly diversity and how to identify them. We'll have some tips and tricks for some advanced folks as well as for beginners, so all audience friendly. And then what happens with these data, and then we'll do a little bit of wrap up. So becoming a butterfly monitor, the Carolinas Butterfly Monitoring Program, both North and South Carolina, was a community science initiative launched in 2023, where volunteers document butterflies across various habitats. This program provides data on butterfly populations and habitat quality, so it goes hand in hand with folks that are managing natural areas or trying to get information, inventory information about the areas that they're managing and ecosystems, habitats, plants and animals all together, as we know. Also contributes to both state and national databases, and I'll touch on that again. But why is the butterfly monitoring program even important? Everyone in this room and on Zoom, I'm sure, has already heard of the insect apocalypse, which is a decade ago-ish when the media picked up on the fact that a lot of people were saying, hey, our insect population seemed to be crashing. Fewer insects on my garden in the back, at my porch light, at the lights in the stadium, hitting my car windshield, all these kinds of things. So what's going on? In addition, we've got folks here in the Carolinas that have been casually or even more than casually looking at or looking for butterflies across the state. And here's a couple of examples of some really cool skippers that feed on our native grasses. And the distribution maps at the bottom are color coded based on when the last when the last records were for these species in those counties. Green means that this species has been seen within the last decade. And I can see the projection here is making it look a little tricky. Green, this is green, right there. This is yellow. Thank you. Who's got, oh, a pointer. Outstanding. There. Awesome. This is green. So the last decade, the only county cobweb skippers have been seen in is, just drew a blank, Harry, Madison. Yeah, Madison County. Look at all of the Piedmont counties where it's been a decade or 2 decades since we've seen cobweb skipper or Leonard skipper. What is going on? We don't really know. Again, casual but really important observations. So we've got all these reports. Insect populations seem to be seriously declining. A lot of these are casual observations that people are reporting that might indicate there's a problem. But what about some hard science? So in the big picture, scientists started looking at this and saying, okay, everyone's saying insects are declining. And when we started looking for actual hard science to show this, we found there were precious few rigorously conducted long-term studies of insect populations. Yes, there are some really important ones, but most are just regional or localized or just a few species. So we realize we're in serious need of some scientifically conducted long-term monitoring studies. So I called up my buddy Rambo, and he's on board. But even Rambo is just one person. So how can we do this effectively, scientifically, to figure out our insect populations actually declining with some scientific background or that holds up to science? We do it with a simple monitoring protocol called a pollard walk. Pollard surveys are scientific. They have rigorous standards. They keep data consistent. They ensure accurate data recording. And one of the main things that makes this rigorous and scientific is that effort is standardized. And when you're talking about research and these scientists use the term effort to say things or to define, who, how long, how much, all of these parameters so that you can make one survey done in New Mexico compare to a survey done in North Carolina because the effort and the protocols are standardized. So standardized effort means basically conducting your surveys when the butterfly activity is maximal. And that means waiting till at least 10 o'clock in the morning if the rest of the weather conditions are good, because that's when you can count on pretty much all butterflies to be out and active if they're going to be. And you want to wrap up by 4:30 in the afternoon because they're starting to cool down or find a place to sleep for the night. You can go out in a group or you can go by yourself. If you go in a group, one person is designated as the observer or the spotter to point out and spot the butterflies. And as soon as that person has pointed one out, then everybody can help identify it, get looks, take pictures, all that kind of stuff. That way, your effort is standardized by me taking all y'all out on a butterfly walk on a survey, and I'm the spotter. Instead of having 25 sets of eyes all pointing out butterflies, and that survey can still be compared to one I do next week by myself and to one that John does in New Mexico and Bill does in Illinois and Tracy does in Wisconsin. Effort is standardized. The other thing about this is you record your sighting to the nearest identification level that you're 100% positive of. None of us, well, maybe Harry in the audience is an actual expert on identifying every butterfly out there. And I'm picking on Harry a little bit. I want to say, that's right. That's right. Harry says if you're by yourself, then you can't identify everything. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for Harry. So I would just, yes. So you record to the nearest level that you are sure of. So if a dark swallowtail flies by and you don't know, was that a dark tiger? Was it a pipevine, a spice bush, a black swallowtail? You write down on your data sheet, unidentified swallowtail. Perfectly valid data point. Unidentified skipper, unidentified sulfur. Those are valid data points when you're doing a survey. Once you have a survey route, if you adopt one, how often do you do it? Ideally once a week. And because of vacations and weather and busy schedules, very few people can achieve that. And so 2 to 3 times a month is a great goal. My statisticians tell me twice a month is the minimum for getting meaningful trend data. And the other thing for standardizing effort is when you're doing your survey, you record every butterfly that you encounter to the level that you're sure what its ID is and is within your 5-meter forward window. So imagine you've got this half dome walking with you, and if a butterfly flies into that 5-meter forward window, you tally it in that section on the data sheet. Well, Jeff, I want to tally every butterfly I see. Yes, I do too. And that's why we have another section on the data sheet called incidentals. Any butterfly you see that doesn't come into your 5-meter window, you tally that in the incidentals column. So you still get a full species list and numbers for the day that you're out there, and effort is standardized. Ideally, you would conduct your survey using some close focus binoculars, and if you've got a camera also, fantastic. How to start learning to identify butterflies if you're not familiar with it. As John mentioned, this guide came out last year, Butterflies of the Carolinas, Virginia, and Georgia. Has every species of butterfly known from this area, with one minor exception of a species of azure that was just described recently, but no one can identify anyway. And so when you're out starting to learn your butterflies, just kind of practice a search image. How does it fly? Is it big? Is it small? What's the shape? What color? What's the flight pattern? What's the season? There are species of butterflies that only fly in the spring. And so if you come to me and say, Jeff, I think I saw this dusky wing. I think it's a juvenile's dusky wing, and I saw it in my yard last week. I'm like, well, let's look at the possibility of Horace's dusky wing, which looks really similar and flies now, but juveniles stopped flying in May. So season can really help narrow these things down as well. Let's take a look now at some of the butterflies that are out there that we could encounter, and just some field marks and a little taste of the biodiversity that North Carolina has. Depending on your taxonomy, about 178 species of butterflies in North Carolina, and people, they are all classified by taxonomists into just 6 families. How many wildflower enthusiasts do we have out here? All right, quite a few. How many families of plants are there? A lot. All right, how many birders in the room? It's an Audubon Society group. A lot of birders. How many families, classification-wise, of birds are there? A lot. Okay, butterflies, 6 families. So if you see a butterfly, you're not sure what it is, you are probably still going to be able to get it down to one of these 6 families pretty quickly and easily, and then you can go from there. So the families we have are the swallowtails, the whites and sulfurs, the gossamer wings, the metalmarks, brushfoots, and the skippers. Now I'm going to spend a little bit of time in each family looking at some species, some field marks, some concepts, and giving you a taste of some of the diversity and some of the fun that it is to identify butterflies. Swallowtails, we have 8 species in the Carolinas, and they're pretty easily identified to the family. They're big, they're showy, they're either pale and dark striped, or they're pretty dark and have iridescent bluish or greenish and some pale spots. So if you're starting out and you see a dark swallowtail, at first it can be a little intimidating or tough to figure out which one it is. And if it just flies by, then unidentified swallowtail is great. And when Harry and I are out doing, looking around looking for butterflies, we'll have a dark swallowtail fly by that will be like, oh, I think that's all right, unidentified swallowtail, let it go. Now, I tell folks, if you're just getting into butterflies, learn a few names, learn a few field marks, and just build on that. So with our dark swallowtails, here's an example. We've got black swallowtail, spicebush, pipevine, palamedes, and eastern tiger. And when people say they saw a black swallowtail, keep in mind black swallowtail with a capital B and a capital S is an actual species. If you saw a dark swallowtail and you're not sure what species it is, call it a dark swallowtail. It's easier than saying little b black swallowtail. And so what I want to do, like I said, learn a few names, learn a few field marks. So let's take a look actually at the undersides of these. And I'm going to just point out a few field marks. You may say, Jeff, that's kind of obscure. Can I see that in the field? The answer is yes. With a little bit of practice, you will know what to look for and you'll see it pretty quickly. So one thing, black swallowtails, the females and the males look a little bit different. Just like with birds, some species of birds are sexually dimorphic. The boys and girls look really different, and some they look really similar. Rose-breasted grosbeak, pretty different. Blue jays, pretty similar. When it comes to butterflies, you have the same situation. So some species of butterflies look pretty different from a boy from a girl, and some look really similar. Black swallowtail boy and girl look a little bit similar and yet different too, but notice that on the black swallowtails, you see an orange spot here with a black dot in the middle. And the spicebush swallowtail doesn't have the black dot in the middle of the orange spot. Really subtle, but easy to see. But here's the other thing. Look at overall the rows of orange spots on the underside of the wings. So you got Black swallowtail has 2 rows of orange spots. 2 rows of orange spots. And look here, one of those spots is doubled. Okay, subtle little field mark, but hey, it works. Let's look at a spice bush. 2 rows of orange spots. But not only are none of these spots doubled, but this one's kind of missing. It's been bumped out of the way by this little blue comet. Someone recently said they think that looks like a comet. I said, I'm going to steal that. That's pretty good. Go to pipevine swallowtail. 1 row of really orange round spots. So that one's pretty easy. Okay, eastern tiger, the dark females. 1 row, but they're not round. And you can see the dark tiger stripe coming through. Palamedes swallowtail, it's got this extra stripe here. And this inner row is complete. 2 rows of orange spots. This one's complete. None of those spots is doubled. None of the spots is missing. So yeah, I'm just going through an example of some field marks, some names, a little bit of practice, and you've got this. And there's a lot of other field marks too. It's not just that's the only thing to look for, but that's just what I wanted to point out in this example. Going to the next family, that's the sulfurs and whites. Named because sulfur is yellow, and a lot of the examples, or a lot of the species in this family are creamy or yellow or orangish, or of course, whitish. One of the things I realized recently, sulfur, the atomic number is 16. How many species of sulfurs and whites in the Carolinas? Oh, 16. Coincidence? I don't think so. Again, some species of butterflies are pretty consistent what they look like, but some are also pretty variable. So sleepy oranges is going to be one of your most common medium-sized sulfur. They're orange, and depending on the season, they can look like this, or like this, or like this, but they all have a dark diagonal line in the under hind wing. Orange sulfurs on the wing, when they're flying around, they can look a little similar size. They show some orange when they're flying around, but instead of a dark line, they have that little circle. Of course, if you see something big and yellow, keep getting bumped right back here. You see something big and yellow, cloudless sulfur is your common big yellow sulfur without obvious field marks. And if you see one that looks really small, it's this cute little thing called a little yellow. Now, we've talked about these. Here's one. This one, you look at this and you might think, I don't see any orange. Maybe this is what they call a clouded sulfur. Sometimes it's hard to tell when it's perched, but when it takes flight, if you see an orange, rich golden orange patch up here, it's still an orange sulfur. So just some things to be aware of, and that's where unidentified sulfur is a good data point. All right, the next family, the gossamer wings, probably my favorite family, 30 species of things called harvesters and coppers and hair streaks and elfins and blues. They're all small, but when you get a good look at them, their colors and the patterns just pop. One of the other things, and I know we've got a lot of birders in the room, when you've been birding for a while, you start looking through the field guide and you're like, oh, I haven't seen that. I want to see that. Where do I go to see that? The gossamer wings are like that too, because some of these are only in the mountains, some are only toward the coast, some are habitat specialists. They're just exciting to like make a field trip, go for them, look for them. It's just a neat group. The next family are the metalmarks, pretty big family in the tropics, about 1,500 species or more. North Carolina, we're represented. We've got one, and it's a longleaf pine habitat specialist, so it's toward the coast. Don't really find them outside of some of the nice longleaf pine areas like the Croatan, Holly Shelter, Green Swamp, places like that. They have this really cool habit of perching and rotating upside down. So they're facing downward. Don't know why they do that, but it's kind of fun. They're obviously named metal marks because a lot of them have these metallic fleckings in the wing. And of course, butterflies are the inspiration for some heavy metal rock art posters. And that takes us to the next family, the brushfoots. This is a big family. It is a hodgepodge of things that don't necessarily look related. And so if you see a butterfly, you're not sure what it is, you know it's not a skipper or a metalmark or a gossamer wing or a swallowtail. Guess what? The brushfoot. So we've got quite a few brushfoots in the Carolinas and lots of habitats, from the familiar monarch in the upper left to the viceroy below it, which mimics the distasteful monarch. And the viceroy is best identified by this black line that goes through the middle of the hind wing. They also fly different. I was saying a few minutes ago, when you're learning your butterflies, watch the flight. The behavior can be helpful to kind of get a search image for. Monarchs, when they're relaxed and gliding, they tend to hold their wings like a turkey vulture, up in a V, and they kind of rock back and forth. Viceroys, if they're relaxed and gliding, they hold their wings a little flatter out, more like a black vulture. And so they glide with more of a flat wing. Of course, American snout is one of the oddest and coolest butterflies, with these long mouth parts like a snout. Red spotted purple is just nothing else really looks like that around here. Why are they called brushfoots? Well, let's take a look at the picture on the lower right of the common wood nymph. And back to middle school or elementary school biology, how many legs do insects have? 6 legs. So that's going to be 3 pairs, 3 on each side, and they walk around. But this wood nymph is clearly only walking on 2 legs on this side, presumably 2 on the other side. So what's going on? Brushfoots, the front pair of legs is highly reduced to these little brush-like appendages that they tuck right under, and you don't really ever see them. And so you see these butterflies walking around on 4 legs, and you're wondering if it lost some legs or what's happening. That's what's going on. And that is why this family called the brushfoots. Now, I want to get into a few more species and some field marks. And the brushfoot family is a good one to do that because they're fairly showy. You will often see these. They're fairly common. You could go on a walk anywhere around here and encounter some of these. And if you learn a few names and learn a few field marks, you can get these down. Even if they land just briefly, if you know what to look for, look, and when it flies off, you know, oh, well, that was a question mark or an Eastern comma. These are the angle wing butterflies, the question mark and the comma. And they're named for a tiny little field mark on the underside of the hind wing, but I'm not going to talk about that. How do you identify when they perch like this? Well, take a look in the middle of the forewing at this row of spots here and here. In the question mark, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. In the comma, 1, 2, 3. Subtle, yeah, but pretty easy to pick up on once you know to look for it. Emperors. One of my favorite trees, sorry, I'm starting to walk away again. One of my favorite trees is the sugarberry in the genus Celtis or Celtis, depending on how you want to pronounce that C. And it was one of my favorite trees because it's a nice native tree and it's super wildlife friendly. Lots of different insects eat the leaves, lots of birds and other animals eat the fruits. And there are a few butterfly caterpillars that feed on sugarberry, on Celtis leaves, including the emperors in the middle of the slide. So you have tawny emperor, hackberry emperor. In these two pictures, they look pretty different, but sometimes if one lands, you're not really sure because the hackberry might look oranger or the tawny browner. But if you look at the leading edge of the forewing, tawny emperor has two solid black bars. Hackberry emperor has one solid black bar, and the second one is broken into two dots. Subtle, yeah, but so is looking at whether the wings are extending past or to the tip of the tail on the white rump sandpiper. It's just a matter of learning some names, learning some field marks, and going from there. Pearl crescent, one of the most common butterflies around, statewide, and with little parks, gardens, yards, all over the place. Caterpillars feed on lots of different asters. Silvery checker spot, they're more local. When you find them, they tend to be colonial, so you'll often see bigger numbers, but they can look pretty similar. So what is a good way to tell them apart? Subtle field marks, but learn a few field marks, learn a few names. Let's look at the hind wing. Pearl crescent, in the row of orange that is just before the border, you've got these solid brown, black dots. In the silvery checker spot, in that same location, some of those brown or black dots are not solid. They have an open donut or an open circle to them. Subtle, yeah. Visible, definitely. Once you get looking for that, boom. And again, with all of these things, there are other field marks to help you get to that identification. I'm pointing out some examples. One other group of brushfoots are the satyrs, the browns, the pearly eyes. It's another cool group of butterflies that people often think are moths, Colleen, those moth things. And what these buck the trend that butterflies like to be in big, open, sunny places nectaring on flowers. These are mostly found in the woods where it's more shady, and you rarely see them on flowers, even if flowers are present. They usually stay below waist level and just kind of bounce around. And folks on Zoom, sorry, I'm going to disappear for a sec. What they do is they just kind of bounce. You walk in a trail in the woods, and you see this little brown thing bouncing like this in the trail ahead of you. You're like, oh, I wonder if that's one of those satyr things I'm talking about. I'm going to wait for it to land. You look at it, and it bounces, and then, oh, it's coming down, it's coming down. Oh, no, keep on bouncing, bounce a little bit more. You're patiently following this thing. Bounce, 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 bounce. Oh, here's a little leaf. Bounce, bounce, bounce. No, 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 bounce, bounce, bounce. Boom, into the woods, it disappears. The joys. Mitchell satyr, just a quick note on that, the lower right, federally endangered species in North Carolina, only known from Fort Bragg, where in the bombing ranges, where bombs have created beaver type pond habitats and so forth. So that's the only place where one can look for those, and it's illegal to do so. That takes us to the next family, the skippers. Large family, 75 species or so in the Carolinas. And there's two major groups that you're going to see. The spread wing skippers and the fold wing skippers. The fold wing skippers, like the fiery skipper on the upper right, they will often hold their front wings and a jet fighter pose so that they're kind of perpendicular somewhat to the hind wings, or they'll just fold them up completely. The spread wing skippers tend to hold their wings spread out or V'd a little bit, but the forewing and the hind wing is always in the same plane. Skippers can be tough to identify. Fortunately, there's this really cool thing called the silver spotted skipper. It's big, it's bold, it's common. It has a large white spot so that you can easily identify it. In sticking with the theme of let's throw in a few little subtle things, what if the silver-spotted skipper perches with its wings open? How is it not a hoary edge, which is similar but different? If you look at the pattern of the gold spots in the forewing of the silver-spotted skipper, they're kind of a jagged line. In the hoary edge, there is they sort of surround a dark spot. So there's a dark spot in the middle surrounded by these gold spots. Subtle things, but it works. Okay, now let's look at every species of grass skipper or fold-wing skipper and how to identify them. We'll start here. All right, great family, really amazing diversity. My second favorite family after the gossamer wings, because some are only at the coast, some are only in the mountains, some are habitat specialists and hard to find. When you're starting to learn your butterflies, learn 3 or 4 of the common ones in your area. Start there and then build on that. Learn your sachem and your fiery skipper and your clouded skipper, and then go from there.
You haven't mentioned the camera aspect. For most of these things, a lot of times try to get a photo and you can always take it home with you and compare it to iNaturalist and other or the book or whatever. We're trying to learn these just with binoculars, and that includes for all the true butterflies too. You may have trouble. But if you got some photos, you can go home afterwards and then have time to sit down, really figure things out.
Agreed. Even just using your cell phone and getting some photos can be really helpful. So the question or the point that Harry made in the audience was cameras are really, really, really helpful for learning these. If you're out in the field and you see one of these and you're not sure what it is and then it flies off, you're kind of stuck wondering and relying on memory. But if you can grab a photo, whether with a fancy camera or just with your phone, take it home, study it, look at the book, look at website resources, send it to me or Harry or somebody, put it on iNaturalist. That can really help you learn the different species. It's a great tool, is taking photos.
I think you're gonna learn stickers. Let's say you're by yourself. You don't have a camera, iPhone or anything like that. You'll say, well, I think that might be a female.
Yeah.
Well, no, so it's like, you're by yourself especially, you really should have something like a camera or something, because that helps the learning process greatly.
It does.
iNaturalist, you just throw a photo up there and you might not even know what in the world it is.
True.
iNaturalist or something will throw a name out there suggesting.
Yep. So again, Harry's just emphasizing, especially if you're by yourself, grab some photos and go from there. All right, how do we put all of this together? We've looked at some diversity. We've talked about why it's important to monitor butterflies and look at insect trends. Putting the whole thing together, now you've gone out, you've gotten excited, you've run a survey, you have a field sheet that looks like this with the species you've seen, the tallies, the starting weather conditions and time, the stop weather conditions and time. What do you do next? Well, this is where I want to introduce the North American Butterfly Monitoring Network. And this is a consortium of independent butterfly monitoring programs like the Carolinas around the country. All of them, again, are independent. They've started up at different times. They're different sizes. They're run through different organizations, but they've all come together under this arch because Leslie Reese, the PI of the Georgetown Butterfly Informatics Lab, 20-ish years ago, 15 to 20 years ago, was doing some putting together some research and trends on butterflies and discovered there's all these different independent programs. She went to NSF. She got a grant to create the North American Network to bring them under this umbrella to support them. and to create this thing called Pollard Base. Because once Leslie found out about the programs in different parts of the country, she contacted the directors and said, hey, we're looking at figuring out how insect trends are doing. You know, where are your data? And some of the answers she got were like, on my desktop computer at home. And some of the other answers she got were, they're in a file cabinet in the basement of the museum. Okay, great, but so she was able to brainchild putting together this thing called Pollard Base. And it is an online database where if you're with the Illinois program, the program in California, the Carolinas, once you've done a survey, you log in, you upload your data to Pollard Base. It then goes through a QA QC review check, and then it goes to the national database. And so we now have programs across the country and new ones coming on. I haven't updated this graphic, but we have a new program in New Hampshire that just came on this year, which is super exciting. One in Pennsylvania that is coming together. And so it's just been rewarding to see this program grow and grow as more and more folks are getting interested in butterflies and conservation and so forth. So you go to Pollard Base once you've done a survey, and the Carolinas program starts with C. So alphabetically, it's right near the top of the splash page, which is awesome. Click on that. And then you click on Roots at the top menu, and you can search or scroll down to your route, or you can just peruse the different routes that we have. There's over 150 now that folks across the Carolinas are surveying. Once you select your route, you hit the button that says create a survey, and then there are tabs that you select and fill in that effort data. So who was involved? When was your survey run? What were the conditions? What are your observations, the butterflies? Any additional notes that you want to list? The incidentals can be put in here, and then any pictures. I'll have folks take, a dozen photos and say, this unidentified skipper was in section C. And so then I'll look at it. If I can identify it, I'll get back with them, and they will then update their observations where you just put in all of the butterfly data. They hit submit, you get a summary to look at. That's what I then review and approve to the database or reach out if we have questions. So what happens with these data? Where do they go? Well, again, why is it important? One of the major projects that is still underway, but had a big milestone last year was the Status of the Butterflies of US project, where collaborative data scientists looked at data from these Pollard surveys from programs across the continent, as well as from NABA, North American Butterfly Association, NABA butterfly counts, and they analyzed the trends of butterflies starting in the year 2000 to the year 2020. So they looked at a 20-year trend, and unfortunately, they found a 22% decline in butterflies nationwide in just that short 20-year time period. So if you went out and saw 5 butterflies in the year 2000 and you went to that same place, you would see 4 butterflies statistically just 5 years ago. So they divided up the whole country into regions. They analyzed over 300 species of butterflies from these regions. They looked at 12.6 million individual butterflies that had been counted over almost 77,000 surveys to get these data. The only way that we can do big data, scientifically rigorously gathered data on insect populations is through programs like this. And since insects are key components of of the ecosystem, and butterflies are throughout that ecosystem, feeding birds, eating plants, and so forth, it's been shown that butterflies can serve as a proxy for insects in general. So if we determine what the with butterfly populations, that is going to relate then to what the trends are in general with insect populations. What about on a state level? All of the data also go to the North Carolina Biodiversity Project. And that includes all the incidentals, which is why it's great to track your incidentals and add those in. This project has been going on for over 30 years, thanks to Harry, who initiated the butterfly tracking with Natural Heritage Program.
Tom Howard is the webmaster.
Tom
I
is,
can't do anything because I'm not a web person.
and
I'm right.
Tom Howard, webmaster.
None of this is possible without someone to set the whole thing up.
Absolutely. Tom Howard, webmaster, makes everything happen online. He generates these graphics so that we can look at flight charts and county distributions and so forth. And folks, we now have over 250,000 records in this database for over 33 years. So now it's like, okay, Jeff, we know everything about North Carolina butterflies, right? We don't need any more people looking at butterflies. Just last year alone, volunteers for the Carolinas Butterfly Monitoring Program documented 8 new county records across the state. There's a lot we don't know. We're updating the flight charts, the distribution maps continuously. So it's still an exciting time to be out there looking at and for butterflies and contributing to this project. How you can get involved. Shoot me an email. There's my email address, and you can review the protocols for the project online. If you are interested, let me know and let me know where you are. And if you have an idea of where you might like to set up a survey route, or if you don't know, we're happy to work with you to get one going. If you don't want to adopt a survey route, but just want to occasionally look at butterflies and send what you see to folks, you can email that to me as well, or you can post them to the Carolina LEPS email list, which is where folks will see something in their backyard and they'll report it, or they'll go on a field trip and report it. And it ties them in with researchers and other casual observers just to kind of share information, what's flying now, when, where, how do I see this, that kind of stuff. So with that, thank you very much. I'm happy to take questions. Yes, in the middle.
How does one track flight paths?
Question was, how does one track flight patterns? Good question. It's when you say patterns, you mean the behavior that an individual butterfly is doing, like gliding with V wings, or
This town, this town.
oh, so there's a couple of different ways to answer the question. Individual butterflies will have a behavior of how they fly. And in terms of looking at patterns as a whole, as a population, that's where just having a lot of people out in a lot of different places gives us a picture of which species of butterflies are flying where and when. Because it's going to be a little bit different in the mountains than it is here in the triangle, than it's going to be at the Outer Banks, because of weather differences and altitude and stuff like that. So just having folks out reporting what they're seeing all kind of feeds into sort of answering that question. Yes, sir.
We know the monarchs are big migrators. How many of these do lots of migrating, how many stay local?
Great question, and one that butterfly researchers are still trying to really figure out.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, sorry. The question is, we know monarchs are a classic migratory butterfly. How many other butterflies also migrate? And it's a lot of southbound movements have been documented in species like some of the anglewings and admirals and snouts and so forth. Northbound return movements are very poorly documented for species other than monarchs. We also see late summer or fall sort of dispersal or emigrations of a lot of species going north that presumably end up dying, but with climate change, maybe that's going to be an advantageous behavior. It's an active area of research that we're still trying to figure out. Harry.
Southgate, there's probably 30-ish, 25 or 30 that are just strays or migrants, like from Florida. So there's a good handful of like Florida, Georgia that are down there and breed down there, and in summer and fall, especially toward the coast. This is what makes butterfly potentially exciting, because butterflies have wings.
Yeah.
Birds, as opposed to, mammals and birds and stuff like that. You could go out to Ralston Arboretum tomorrow and find some Florida stray theoretically, but there is a lot of these things, species like cloudless sulfurs and some of these that do come up. Fresh ones, they're, let's say, hatched, emerged from the, egg and all sort of thing. The pupa, they're flying north, and some of them may mate and lay eggs up here, but they don't usually have much of a southbound. They just kind of die. I mean, their purpose is basically to mate and lay eggs and that sort of stuff, and they don't really have much of a southward migration, but you always kind of fingers crossed, that we get a few of these strays that come up, like the Cassius Blue was one of those for new counties. Some of us did get to go to the coast and see those. It's mostly a coastal thing.
Yeah.
You never know, more summer fall, you never know what may show up.
Right. The Harry is saying you never know what might show up because of the 178 species of butterflies known and recorded from North Carolina. 25 or 30 of them are mostly southern or western things that will just occasionally show up in the state. Some more regularly, some much less regularly. And it's always exciting to go out and you never know what you might find. John.
If that does migrate south, what do we know about that?
Does it migrate south?
A little bit. Not compared to the volume that goes north, there's much less that goes south. So I don't know how coordinated it is.
But they go east to the coast, and I think they head south from there. I know it's a huge fall migration.
So there's huge fall migration of cloudless sulfurs, and if you hit it in the right year and the right weather and the right time, and you're down in Wilmington, you might see literally thousands of them going north in September, October. And so this massive northbound emigration. How many go back south? Do they go back south? We don't really know. Yeah. Yeah.
Our question there, what's the biggest threat of them? I've got two questions relevant to that. We look on the back of some of our plants and look for those eggs and stuff, see those, and then all of a sudden they just seem to be disappearing.
So first question or first part of the question are the biggest threats to butterflies in general? And I would say the two biggies are pesticides and habitat loss. Because we're just, we're converting too much land into non-native habitat. And there's more and more research showing these neonicotinoid pesticides are just, just devastating our insect populations. Second question.
Oh, one part relevant. We saw a ladybug on it, and so all of a sudden we thought, well, maybe that's what's due.
Well,
Plenty of predators on every life, caterpillars.
Yeah. Yeah, so the question is, if you see eggs on your plants and then you come back a day or two later and they're gone, what happened to them? There's a lot of predators natural predators and parasites that are eating eggs, eating caterpillars, parasitizing the chrysalis, eating the adults. It's just, that's part of nature.
These I had, my wife saw something the other day, she was looking at one of our dogs, which saw a swallowtail. I don't know which kind, it was unidentified swallowtail.
That's fine. That's a good data point.
She saw flycatcher swoop in and attack it.
Wow. Did it then throw up?
In a couple of seconds, another one went in, and so they were fighting on the butterfly type side. That's a different kind of threat in my mind, but I think that no more.
So definitely birds are one of the major predators of adult butterflies. And that's why some butterflies have evolved to be poisonous to birds, like monarchs, pipevine swallowtails, and a handful of others are poisonous to birds. And often they have those warning colors to sort of say that. There are there's videos and documentation of birds eating a monarch and then throwing up, and they're like, no, I don't want any more monarchs. Thank you very much, kind of thing. Sure.
Oh, I was having a question about data collection.
Yeah.
Slide where you showed North America stops Canada and stops in Mexico. Is there data from north of us and south of us that contributes?
So that project was specifically what they called the S-bus, status of butterflies in the United States. And it was just the lower 48. Well, they might have looked at Alaska. There are butterfly pollard walk programs as part of the North American program in Canada. And there are a lot of butterfly counts through NABA, the North American Butterfly Association in Mexico. So there are endeavors on both north and south of the border that are all helpful.
You mentioned these sulfurs migrating north.
Yep.
Why would they migrate north?
Well, so presumably they're looking to potentially expand their range. Obviously, they're not thinking about climate change, but it might work for them in some cases. In a lot of cases, they are probably running through the resources they have where they're from. So they're eating a lot of the plants that are hosting them there, and they're looking to expand into other areas. Interesting little tidbit about painted ladies. Painted ladies, they're unable to survive in any life stage in the winter in most of the United States. And yet most of the United States sees painted ladies every summer. What's happening? Painted ladies are successfully surviving the winter in one of their life stages in the deserts of northwestern Mexico, and then every spring repopulating the entire continent. It's amazing. And on big years, insect strategies for reproduction are, I'm going to lay a whole bunch of eggs, and some of them are going to live. And so in years where there's not a heavy predator load or parasite load, you might see lots of those butterflies. And then the predators and parasites build up, and then the butterfly numbers kind of crash for a couple of years. And then there's a lot of them again, and then they crash again. So it's natural for insect populations in general to go big swings. And on some of the big year population numbers for painted ladies, you can be driving the deserts in Southern California and hitting one with your car windshield every 30 seconds. I know it's tragic, it's awful, but that also tells you how many of them there are. It's mind-blowing. American snouts, they migrate south into the lower Rio Grande Valley of Texas, and you can have a day, if you hit it just right, where you see 10,000 of them. It's incredible. These movements we're still learning and trying to understand.
I want to see if the chat has any questions.
Oh.
We have to pull it up on your.
All right,
If you can
so
find.
we're gonna look for the
We have
chat.
to pick that menu, wherever that menu was.
All right,
In Zoom.
yeah.
You're still. No, the other. wherever that little window was that we minimized.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or
Or we may not.
if we can't find it, Royce, if you have any
Yeah, I mean, Royce can
questions,
chime in.
let me know.
Yeah, because we minimized that and
I know, it was in the, it was
Not-
in your.
not sure we're,
Oh, there's the window. Now, how do we get back into that?
oh yeah, there it is.
We have not been able to like find that little window on the computer.
Oh, I
There. Might be at top.
I think it worked when, what we're gonna do is, we're gonna stop the screen share. And
there it
that
is.
pops it back up.
Somewhere is a chat down here, somewhere. Where that might be. I think that 12 might be there.
All right, so here's the chat.
Any questions? There you There's a
Are there, or here's a question in the chat on Zoom. Are there any efforts in Wake County to make residential areas more hospitable to beneficial insects? Great question. I'm going to turn that over to the Wake Audubon Society representatives here to possibly answer that.
Well, it is part of what we do. There are a lot of different agencies and organizations doing that. But you know, we have now a certification program. It's a backyard, it's a wildlife habitat certification. Other chapters are doing it. And we have copied that program over. There are other organizations that started it years ago. And then we have Leave the Leaves, that helps. We do the plant sale twice a year to get people to do their native plant gardening, and we'll help anybody consult on that. We work with some different groups. We work with some schools and churches to get little native plant gardens going. And we've had a big program at the museum doing that, the art museum and that sort of thing. A lot of folks are promoting wildlife habitat and doing yard management for, especially for pollinators, but it works for all kinds of, I mean, our yard is full of bugs and snakes and birds and all sorts of things. So, more than just the insects. So, yes, we're all doing it out there.
One more question in the chat. If brush foots include unrelated taxa, why are they categorized in a single family? And I may have misled or misspoke. It's a hodgepodge family, but they're all related. They are all related as brush foots. They're phylogenetic, taxonomic. It is a taxonomic single family. Looking to see if there's any other. How did Jeff? Hi, Karen. Any upcoming field trips? Well, we've got one next week that's full. Check the Carolinas Butterfly Monitoring Program website. I do try to keep that post updated with workshops, that kind of stuff, or shoot me an email as well. Any others? Oh, there's others up here maybe. Nope, I think that's it.
Down here, you had a question?
Bring a book.
I don't actually, I've got some in the car maybe.
Look, you can get it through Amazon, you can see bro.
Mary's gonna do show and tell. Earl is gonna do show and tell. Very nice, very nice. There's the book. Thank you, thank you. All right.
If that's it, all right, well, thanks everybody for coming out.
Thank you.
And again, if you're online, if you make the trip downtown next month for the potluck, please do. And then the rest of us here have our usual snacks in the back to go back and take a eat. Jim, this is Jeff. That's Jim. Jim brought a lot of snacks for us to eat. We're gonna be here all night eating snacks.
There you go.
All right, thanks, everybody. We'll, if we don't see you next month, we'll see you in September.
Thanks, Sean.
And then, yeah, you can
All right.
leave if you want. And then